Hi, I'm Keith Schaefer from the Oil and Gas Investments Bulletin. My job is to give my subscribers the best money-making ideas in energy from around the world. So where are investors and my subscribers going to make the most money in 2019? Well, if we look back at 2018, the big lie was that oil stocks did not move up with the oil price. In the first 9 months, the oil price did great, going from 55 to 75, but most oil stocks didn't do very well at all. And of course, they all collapsed when the price of oil collapsed in Q4 2018. So in 2019, I'm actually pretty neutral on oil. I see WTI holding very steady in the low, mid $50 barrel range, with Brent, the international price, averaging $5, $7 above that at just over $60 a barrel. Now, that's generally not very good for oil stocks. Oil stocks, to get momentum and go up, need oil to have momentum, and I just don't see that happening. And of course, I could be wrong, and when I look at where I could be wrong, there's three big factors I think that really are kind of unknowable, but we will be keeping a very close eye on in 2019. And believe it or not, one of them is not the United States, because their production is a gimme. Their production is guaranteed, in my humble opinion, to go up by about 1 million barrels a day. So that's not one of the big factors that we're going to see. I'm taking that as a given that we will see a large increase again this year in U.S. oil production. Maybe not quite as big as last year in 2018, but still quite large. So the big unknowable factors are, two of them have to do with supply, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, and one of them has to do with demand. Will we have a mild global recession this year? But let's talk about the Saudis first, because they have the most immediate question in front of them. Given that the U.S. will increase production by probably over 1 million barrels a day in 2019, they're really the only group that can economically think about cutting back production to keep oil prices higher. So what will they do? And I don't think anybody knows that. A lot of people talk about that the Saudis need $70 or $80 a barrel oil to meet all their social commitments, to keep social peace in their country. I don't know if I really buy that, but I think that whatever they decide, that's a bit of a guessing game that no one's really sure of. They're going to do some work to keep the oil prices higher, but I don't know if they're going to really cede enough market share and let the Americans have that to keep oil prices high. Now, of course, the second big factor is Venezuela. This country has been seeing declining oil production for many years, and each year the decline gets worse and worse. And of course, the political situation there is not improving. The socialist Maduro government is really turning that country into a basket case, and now we have an army general who knows nothing about oil or the oil markets running the national oil company there. And so there is the chance that there's still well over 1 million barrels of production coming out of Venezuela, and that is in jeopardy. And if that country really goes to the dogs this year, we could see quite a much larger increase in the price of oil than I would suspect. Now, both those situations, people can guess all they want, but they really are unknowable situations that are going to have some large impact on the price of oil potentially in 2019. The last issue is, will there be a global recession? You know, demand, and that would impact demand. Demand growth over the last few years has been about 1.5 million barrels a day. The world is now using almost 100 million barrels a day of oil. That's a huge number. And so the question is now, we're seeing Germany already slowing down. They've actually had one negative quarter of GDP growth. And one of the other issues is China. China is slowing down. When you look at their industrial production growth, it slipped below 6% for the first time in a very long time, since the 2008 recession. Their retail sales are way down. It's now 8% and going lower. That trend is unmistakable. So even here in the United States, where you're seeing an absolutely booming economy, the economy is actually overheating. And usually what that brings is higher interest rates and a mild recession. And many economists are now calling for that early in 2019. So again, all these three countries here, large oil consuming countries, could have an impact and cause a bit of a global recession and impact oil demand. And the market is so well balanced right now that could have, if oil demand goes well under 1 million barrels a day growth, that would have a big impact on oil prices to the negative. So And there's just a couple other things here that I would talk about for oil that aren't in the big three. One is that, you know, to me it's a bit of a dichotomy in that there really is no spare capacity in the world, and I mean zero spare capacity for oil producing countries. Everyone is producing flat out as fast as they can right now, and inventory levels are staying pretty steady over the last year. So it strikes me as a little odd that oil wouldn't get a bit of a premium for that zero spare capacity, but that has been the case. Really, it hasn't been a price factor at all, which is a bit surprising. And so, and the other thing I guess is that didn't make the big three, but might be number 4, would be Africa. You know, there is a lot of production in Nigeria and Libya especially that is offline right now because of political and social unrest. And should those 2 countries in particular get their act together, you could see, again, a much larger increase in oil production in 2019. But I just don't see that as too realistic for the coming year, so that didn't make my big three. So to recap, I see oil and WTI staying fairly steady in the low to mid 50s. I see Brent being a few dollars above that in the low 60s for most of 2019. You know, there could be some volatility around there, but I don't think we're going to see the same volatility we did in 2018. So I'm thinking that's going to be fairly steady. That's actually bad news for oil stocks, particularly small cap stocks. So in 2019, I'll be moving up market into much larger cap stocks. There are a few oil stocks that are exceptions to this rule, who are making fantastic money, paying down debt, unbelievable cash generators at this stage, at this oil price. So in my next video, I'll be talking about what those companies are and giving you a couple other money-making ideas in energy in 2019. I'm Keith Schaefer. Thanks for watching.